Elementary music teacher friend, you love what you do, but you might feel unappreciated and, in fact, unseen some days. You may even feel like you're on a music teacher island and just want to connect with other music teachers who can relate to both your struggles and wins when it comes to teaching elementary music. I get you and understand completely the feelings you're having. That's why each and every week, the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast will provide you with solo and guest episodes that will help you realize you're not alone in your music teaching journey. Throughout each episode, my goal is for you to be able to walk away with actionable steps and ideas to help you feel like you're ready to take on the new week with whatever challenges may be thrown your way. Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Peresta, and I'm so glad you're here. Whether you're at home, in your car, in the shower, or wherever else you're listening, grab your cup of coffee or whatever other beverage is nearby and listen in to the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast. Well, hey there, friend. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm excited to have you join me today for this episode where I am going to be sharing about dealing with feeling left out. Kind of sounds like a loaded topic and it kind of sounds deep. And there's a reason behind recording this episode today. If you've listened to any amount of podcast episodes on here, this is actually episode 172, which just saying that out loud sounds crazy to me. I cannot believe we're that far into this podcast. But I have a variety of both solo and guest episodes. Episodes where it is teaching strategies you can run with. I bring some amazing guests on the podcast to help you with different things related to teaching elementary music. But sometimes I also like to have some episodes about you as a person, as a human being, the feelings you may be experiencing, and how to help you move forward, because these kind of episodes help you not only in your teacher life, but in your home life. Because as you're very well aware, your home life and what happens outside of school can affect you and your feelings as a teacher because you're not your most effective self. So let's preface this by saying I am not a therapist. I will never pretend to be a therapist, but I do want to talk about some things that have worked for me when dealing with feeling left out. So let me start by talking about why I wanted to record this episode in the first place. I have felt left out as a music teacher. When I was in the classroom, the only music teacher in my building, I felt left out a lot when it came to conversations happening between the other teachers, when it came to invitations of let's go to happy hour on a Friday. Sometimes I was invited, sometimes I wasn't. I was just forgotten about. I felt left out a lot. I also feel left out sometimes now that I'm not in the classroom and I am a music education mentor and coach. And I feel left out sometimes by the music education community where it's not intentional. It just sometimes is my own feelings of feeling like, okay, I'm not in the classroom anymore, so I feel left out. I have also felt left out in real life friendships where there have been circumstances where thought I was closer with a friend or a group of friends and they're hanging out with each other. And for whatever reason, I was not invited and I thought we were all close. It is tough. And another reason I wanted to record this episode is because I have had this exact conversation just this past month with about 4 or 5 different people, whether it was through my Instagram DMs, email, whatnot, about feeling this exact way. So I knew I'm not the only one dealing with these feelings. Other people, other teachers are feeling this exact way. So I wanted to record an episode about this exact topic and to help you with by identifying what has helped me move forward in hopes that you can take, even if it's just one thing I say from this episode, and apply it to your life to help you move forward with dealing with these feelings. So the first thing I want you to do is identify why you feel this way. Why do you feel left out? What has caused these feelings? Maybe it's because it's actually happened to you. Maybe it's because it's not just a feeling, it's an actual circumstance that has happened to you where you have actually been left out in one way or another. Maybe it is a group of teachers where they just keep excluding you from invitations or from discussions or from even just chatting after school together or going on a Sonic run to get a drink or whatever it might be. Maybe you feel excluded in that way. Maybe you found out there was a group chat where there's a lot of teachers that were just kind of encouraging each other throughout the day and you were not included. Whatever it might be. Maybe identifying why you feel this way is because it's actually happened to you. Maybe you're like me. This is sometimes why I feel left out is because I expect others to treat me the same way I treat them. I go all in when it comes to friendships, when it comes to treating other people a certain way, including all of you listening right now. I give all of me. I pour out my heart. I don't hold back. I'm very honest and open. And I feel like sometimes it's not reciprocated. And that is tough, especially with in person friendships and relationships. So maybe you're like me and you just expect others to treat you the way you treat them and to pour into you the way you pour into them and to want to spend time with you the way you want to spend time with them. And it's not always reciprocated. That can definitely contribute to the feelings you have of being left out. Maybe you're feeling this way because you want to be seen and valued. And maybe going back to what I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, maybe you don't feel seen. Maybe you feel like you're ignored even in your school building, or you don't feel valued. You don't feel like what you're doing as a music educator is valued. And so you feel left out just by the way you're feeling. Not even a certain person has made you feel that way, but you're feeling left out because you don't feel valued. So those are things I want you to, first of all, to stop and go back through those points I just made about why are you feeling left out? Identify why you're feeling that way. Maybe it's something I've already mentioned, but maybe it's something else that's causing these feelings to truly be there in your own heart, in your mind, in your body, and the way you're feeling. So, the next thing I want to talk about is ways to love yourself. You've identified why you're feeling that way. Now, let's talk about how to love yourself. Because I know for me, I can't love others in my life, my husband, my children, my friends, my sisters, my parents, all the music educators I serve online. I cannot love you the way I want to until I love myself first. So, let me give you some ways that have worked for me. Validate your emotions and feelings are real. I do that for myself. I validate that what I'm feeling, my emotions, my feelings, my thoughts, they're real. How do you do that? How do you validate that? Maybe you like to journal. So write out your thoughts. Maybe you're not a journaler, but take the time to just sit down and think about it. I'm going to validate these are feelings I'm having. They're real feelings, they're real emotions, and I'm validating that they are true. Why am I telling you to do this? If you're anything like me, because this has happened to me even recently, when I don't take the time to validate my feelings and my emotions, I internalize them. What happens when you internalize these feelings? It can turn into stress. It can turn into making you feel anxious. It can turn into making you feel angry. So when you validate, these are actual feelings and emotions I'm feeling. They are true, they are real. I'm feeling them for a reason. And maybe I don't 100% know why I'm feeling them yet, but I'm going to validate that they're true. And when you do that, acknowledge the feelings you're feeling, write it out, speak it out loud, get it out of your head, then it's not going to be internalized into your body, causing the stress to come out. Which leads me right into my next point, which is allow yourself time to process your emotions. You're feeling a certain way. And if you don't have time to really process through your emotions, to really let yourself cry a little bit, to really allow yourself time to feel angry, to feel upset, that will also cause you to internalize. So, how do you do this? Literally on your let's say your drive home from work, if there was a certain colleague, for example, that caused you to have feelings of feeling left out, then allow yourself time to process through those emotions. Maybe you don't have a lot of time to just sit down at night. And let's be honest, when you go home from school, from your work day, the last thing you want to do is sit down and journal and to process through your emotions and stare at the wall. So, this is not what I'm trying to tell you to do. Obviously, you're going to want to spend time with your family, spend time with yourself, to just sit there and decompress and do nothing. I get it. So, maybe the drive in your car when you're alone, that is the perfect time to sit there and process through your emotions. Let's say you're in the car and that's the perfect time for you to also validate your emotions and feelings. Speak it out loud. I know people look at me like I'm crazy all the time in my car when I'm by myself. I'm either singing constantly or I'm talking to myself sometimes. And that's okay, whatever. These people don't know you half the time. So, but speak out these emotions and feelings like, oh man, I'm just gonna use a name. I'll use my son's name. He won't care. Owen really made me feel this way today. I'm really upset. This is why. I hate that he said this to me right after my fourth period class. I don't understand why he would say that in front of all my students, why he would make me feel less than. And then here's how you process through your emotions. I'm really angry because I really, really am angry. And I'm going to validate this right now. And I'm going to allow myself time right now to cry. Maybe your tears start flowing. Maybe you just speaking it out loud really helped you to process and to just get it out there. You spoke it into the universe. You've gotten it out of your brain, and that's enough to move forward. But I also want you to know your worth. So if you're made to feel a certain way, and you're made to feel like you're not enough or that you're too much for someone or that you're just whatever other put in insert any other word there, know your worth. And I want to give you a hint. It's a lot. You're worth a whole lot. You matter as a person. Maybe you feel like you're that personality that constantly feels misunderstood or judged or left out or not seen or not heard or invisible at times. Maybe one of those words I just mentioned that you can definitely relate to. Please know your worth. You are worth it. You are worth so much. So if someone has made you feel a certain way, you're probably already identifying a person in your head. And if you're not, that's great. Okay. So just save this episode for when you need it. I want you to know your own worth. And there's not a single person. I've been married 15 years and my husband still cannot make me feel worth what I can make myself feel. You have to know your worth. You have to know that you matter more than anything, and no other person in the whole world can make you feel the way you want to be made to feel. I hope that makes sense. And I also want to mention when I talk about ways to love yourself is to do something just for you that makes you feel happy. So maybe you have processed through your emotions. You've validated your emotions are real. You've done what I've talked about at the beginning of this point. But I also want you to just do something that makes you feel happy. Maybe you've had one of those days, weeks, months, whatever it might be, and you're just really struggling with those feelings of feeling like I don't know, like, I don't feel like I matter, I don't feel like I'm seen, I feel like I'm constantly left out. Try to do something that brings you joy. Just look for what brings you joy, whatever that might be for you. Get outside. I know for me personally, if I'm really having one of those days where I'm struggling mentally or I'm struggling with anxiety or I'm struggling with all my overwhelm and emotions coming at me at once, I try to find time that day to get outside, even if it's just I took my dog on a walk the other day for 10 minutes and I came back and I felt so mentally refreshed because during that walk, I was able to, like I've mentioned already, everything I'm telling y'all to do, I do. I was able to really start just thinking through emotions, speaking some things out loud. I was praying on this walk and just really talking to God about this is how I'm feeling and I really don't know how to move past it, but I'm going to just kind of let it go and give it up because I know sometimes there's problems or situations we want to solve right away, but sometimes we just can't. In our own human nature, we cannot solve things right away. Sometimes it takes time for situations to resolve. Sometimes it takes time to get to where you can have a conversation with a certain person, but just do something for you that makes you feel happy. Maybe it is a walk, maybe it is listening to music, but as a music teacher, as you know, sometimes that's the last thing you want to do is listen to music after doing music all day. Sometimes maybe what makes you happy is talking to a friend that you know loves you and values you and doesn't make you feel left out. Whatever it looks like for you, do something for you that makes you feel happy. And now I have some previous episodes about self-care and how to really take care of yourself. So if you're looking for ways, and maybe you're like, I don't know what to do to make myself feel happy or to take care of myself, go back to and listen to some of those previous episodes about self-care because I really dive deep into how to do that. My last point is how to move forward. Now, it's not enough just to say, okay, why am I feeling this way? Validate my emotions and I'm going to process through them. Those are all great, but we need some really valid ways to move forward to help you to be able to, yes, process through your emotions, but make sure that you can keep moving forward as a human being and that you know how to take the steps to do that. The very first thing I want to talk about is to have tough conversations. It may not be the very next day. It may not even be the next week. But after you've given yourself time to process through things, to do something that makes you feel happy, when you feel like you're in a place where you can have this conversation with a person, then reach out to that person that made you feel left out. Be ready to have that conversation with them. And when I say have a tough conversation, this is never me saying to be rude and angry and try to hurt them because they hurt you. But when I say have the tough conversation, it's tough because it's tough for us to be vulnerable. It's tough for us to open up. It's tough for us to be real and to not just be surface level, which I cannot stand surface level relationships where it never goes deeper than just, hi, how are you today? Good. So you know what I'm talking about. But those relationships, friendships, what colleagues, whoever it might be for you, it may be time for you to have a tough conversation with them and say, "Hey, can we go to coffee and chat?" Because I know good and well that an in-person conversation goes over way better than just a text conversation. When you can hear someone's voice or see their face, maybe you can't do it in person, but have a Zoom call, have a FaceTime, something like that, and have a conversation. The next thing I want to say about moving forward is let go of the expectations. Because here's what's going to happen. In your head, talking when I say your, I'm also talking about myself. You go into these conversations expecting the outcome to always just be able to resolve the situation, to be able to move forward, and everything's going to go back to the way it was. It's going to be great. They're going to recognize your feelings and your emotions. They're going to acknowledge that they hurt you, and everything's just going to be great. But it doesn't always happen that way. So when you have these conversations, go into it knowing that the outcome could go the way you want it to or a totally different direction. And you need to be okay with the outcome because whatever ends up happening, what the cool thing is that you know that you did your part. You reached out. You had the conversation. You have acknowledged that this person hurt you, but maybe you also need to acknowledge what was your part in it. Was there any part you played in them not inviting you to do something or making you feel left out for whatever reason? Keep moving forward and pursuing relationships. Don't let one, two, three, four, however, 25, I don't care, however many relationships and situations have caused you to feel left out, don't let that hold you back from pursuing friendships, from pursuing connections with colleagues, whether it's in your school building, whether it's online. Keep moving forward and pursuing relationships because it's hard being vulnerable. It's hard putting yourself out there. It is hard to be honest and open with people, not knowing what the outcome's going to be, or if it's going to be reciprocated, or if they're going to understand you or value you, or they're going to see you for who you are as a person. And realize that hurt people hurt people. So, when you're thinking about this and you're validating your emotions and you're processing through what happened and you're sitting there festering on it and wondering why this happened a certain way, I can tell you this is not always the case, but a lot of times when someone is hurting, they hurt someone else. It happens a lot. There's something going on in their life. In the same way on this podcast, I have told you before when a student is acting out or you see some behavior problems, and sometimes we need to look at that child, what's going on behind the scenes. Sometimes there's something underlying there. There's something going on with this child behind the scenes to cause the behavior that you're seeing. adults sometimes are not that much different. So when you feel hurt by someone, what's really helped me is if I'm feeling hurt by a certain person, I will sometimes, this doesn't happen right away because I'm human, let's be honest. But when I take time to allow myself to sit down and process through this situation or this friendship, colleague situation, whatever it is, I will realize sometimes that, you know what, this person may be going through something. Do I know what it is? No. Do I need to know what it is? No. Is there something going on? There may or may not be. But knowing that there could be a reason this person is hurting and that's causing them to kind of lash out at me or to hurt me or to make me feel a certain way helps me mentally be able to move forward. When you realize it's not all on you, and it's not just you holding on to this person's not treating me right and they're making me feel bad and it's sometimes not even about you. Sometimes it's about them. And I also promise you that you are not usually the only person that this person is treating that way. If you're feeling left out, I promise you there's at least one other person that's feeling that same way from the person doing it to you. And I also don't want you to internalize these feelings. When you're feeling left out, it's easy to say, well, I guess everybody feels this way about me. Or what is it about me that makes them not like me? Or something like, maybe I'm just too much for others. So what's the point of even pursuing any more friendships? Don't internalize those feelings because it's not true. One person out of how many people are in the world, my gosh, is not, they don't define who you are. Know your worth. Don't internalize feeling a certain way from a negative email, a phone call, a text message, an in person comment, whatever it is in your life. Don't internalize those feelings as being truth. It's one person's opinion, their perspective, their way of seeing things. It doesn't mean that it is true. So don't internalize it. And the last thing I want to mention is talk to someone. Maybe it's a therapist, maybe it's a trusted friend about your feelings. When you have processed your emotions, you've given yourself time to think about things, you've written it down. Why am I feeling this way? You've maybe had the conversation with the person who the conversation needed to happen with. And maybe it's time now to talk to someone else about it. Not in a gossipy kind of way, not like, "Can you believe what they did? Oh my gosh, this person is the worst." And then the other person's like, "Yeah, for sure." Well, that's not, there's no good that comes out of that situation because usually when gossip starts, it's going to trickle down to that person anyways, and then it's going to not be a good situation. So when I say talk to someone about your feelings, you could even just say, "There was a person in my life that made me feel this way." Or, "Can I just talk to you about my feelings and just maybe help me process through some things?" And the reason I mention a therapist is because what's great about a therapist is, and I know this from personal experience, is when you talk to someone who does not know you, they are a totally independent party. They are not your friend. They don't know you from, Adam or Eve. They just are there to listen. That is their actual job, is to listen and to help you work through feelings, emotions, and thought patterns that you have. When you talk to a therapist, you're going to feel so much better being able to just talk it out and say, "Am I crazy for feeling this way? Should I not be feeling this way? Should I be feeling a different way?" Or, "I've talked to this friend about this and they didn't really care. What do I do?" They will be able to help you move forward. So I don't know who needed to hear this today. I know for certain that during the last, let's be honest, couple of years, it has brought these feelings to the surface more than ever. There were friendships that were like turned a different direction. A lot of the virtual teaching situations caused these feelings to happen where you weren't seeing people in person as much, or maybe you just were struggling with anxiety and stress and overwhelm, or maybe even depression. And you started having these feelings of not even feeling like yourself. So you feel like you couldn't give your all to relationships in your life because you weren't even yourself. Maybe you're still going through that. Or you feel like you're going through the motions where from the outside it looks like you're happy, but inside you're just like, "I am not feeling like myself." So go back through this episode. Maybe it's not someone making you feel left out. Maybe you're feeling a certain way. And if that's the case and you're just feeling like, I just feel like I'm just struggling with moving forward and how to not feel like I don't fit in or feel like I want to move forward. I still feel stuck after the last couple of years of this crazy season we're living in the world, then please know you're not alone. You can always reach out to me. Send me a direct message at Jessica Presta on Instagram. I would love to chat with you and help to support you any way I can. Or you can email me, jessica@thedomesticmusician.com, and let's chat. But I want you to also apply what we've talked about in this episode, maybe not to a friendship or a relationship, but maybe even to yourself. Sit down and process your feelings. Tell yourself over and over, I'm worth it. Validate that the way you're feeling is real, and then think about ways to help you move forward and do something that makes you feel happy. So I hope this episode helped you. I hope that you are realizing how important the work you're doing is, how special you are, how unique you are, and how there's only one person in the entire world like you. There's no one else like you. So the world needs you. You are important. You are valued. You are worthy. And I want you to hear those words as you move throughout the rest of your week. Well, hey there. Thank you so much for listening into the Elementary Music Teacher podcast. There is an exclusive Facebook group just for listeners of this podcast and any elementary music teacher called the Elementary Music Teacher Community Facebook group. Come on over and join us there where we have conversations around the podcast episodes and encourage each other each and every week. And also head to my website, thedomesticmusician.com. I have some free resources there that you can download to help you gain traction in your classroom today, as well as the blog and the membership site and all kinds of other goodies to help you keep going in your music teaching journey. I cannot wait to keep connecting with you and encouraging you and spurring you on in your journey of teaching elementary music. Hang in there, have an amazing week, and I will see you soon.